This podcast shines light on strong and talented women who excel and persevere in life while bathing in abundant self-love. So if you're ready to keep it real, level up in all your inner work, creative business, and community impact, then you've come to the right place because we provide you with content that helps your soul glow and your mind grow. Thank you for pressing play. Let's dive in.
Okay, there we go. Hey, community, welcome to another Stuck on Self-Love podcast. And today we are all here as a team recording, and it's been a minute since we've all, been present for a pod. So I love full team pods, and today we wanted to discuss one that a topic that we have all really been dealing with, even though we live in all different parts of the world. Like I'm in California, Madeline's in Indiana, and Tazeen is in Saudi. So just international, but still dealing with, the similar issues. Today we wanted to talk about survival mode, or we can call it like almost, hustle culture mode versus flow mode, which is also faith mode. And I think that like when you are in survival mode, going and going and going, it's often hard to like kind of get off of that like capitalistic conveyor belt and like pull yourself into presence, into grounding, and back into faith. So we kind of wanted to talk about that and explore ways in which we can stay present, stay conscious, stay on our self-love practices, even in the midst of feeling like we are in survival mode. And even like, often we don't have a choice sometimes, and we just have to be in survival mode. So it's like, what do we do when we are in those stages and phases and can't get out of it? And I think like the only real way out of it is faith, and faith through and in creativity is often a big aspect of it. So I think first I kind of want to talk about, because I think we all deal with it first and foremost, is like the aspect of being online and being like on the internet when you're kind of in the midst of being in survival mode. Because my theory is that the best way to deal with that and to like get out of survival mode is to actually like unplug. But a lot of the times our minds and our like, just overly charged nervous systems, unregulated nervous systems, anxiety, whatever we're going through, just work or other people or projects that we have to promote online and have to be online for, often get in the way. So it's like, how do we deal with kind of like navigating, the technical world, the matrix, and, and finding like some sanity and not the need to like doom scroll and just like hyper check or stalk others, etc.
That's like a very fair point about, especially like when you talk about doom scrolling and specifically if you get to Instagram or like TikTok, whatever your preferred platform is, that is a very dangerous place to be in, especially when you are in such a mode, because then there's a lot of like comparison, and there's a bunch of people that you're following and looking at their lifestyles and what they have and what you don't have, and it's just a lot of there's a lot of in the sense, wouldn't exactly call it toxicity.
I
It
would.
feels like a very intense word, but yeah, honestly, to be very honest, you could call it that. It does get to that stage, but I feel like first people really need to understand, I think, what survival mode really means, or that go 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 phase,
Yeah.
what it really means for a lot of people, because I do think that I have come across people in my life where it feels as if they are not aware of
Yeah.
what exactly is happening to them, and then they display a lot of these different behaviors, and then it becomes difficult, obviously, first and foremost for them, but also for the people around them, because things like these, they go unnoticed for a lot of people. You don't have these conversations with people, and I think what people need to understand about this is that it's a stress response, essentially, your body stress response, fight or flight, all those terms that we are very familiar with, but you don't exactly understand it when it's happening to you. So it's meant to deal with incoming threats, right? And
Yeah.
as such, it is fine. When it is in moments of crisis, that is when your body adapts to it. But the problem is when it is prolonged. It's because of the way our mind is perceiving things, because of what our mind perceives to be as a threat, even though it's not actually a threat, or maybe perhaps the threat has passed, but your mind has not been able to pull itself out of that state, and it's a state of alert. So there are a lot of changes in your body that goes through such a state, so you can only imagine how detrimental it's going to be if it is going on for such a long period of time, when the body is maintaining such a phase of such a state for such a long period of time. And I think there are many ways to recognize it, right? Obviously, we do recommend talking to a professional like a therapist or a
Yeah.
counselor, to be able to actually understand your patterns and to um, a better, what do you say, tackle it. There are some pointers, to understand, to recognize disruptions. It really depends on your circumstances, what you're going through on a day-to-day basis. You can tell that there is exhaustion, both physical and mental. Brett and I were talking about this a few days ago, about this physical exhaustion that we've been feeling, and there's this lack of focus, right? You can feel all that emotional dysregulation, and whether it's irritability, or whether it's sadness and all these things, and sleep disturbances and short-term memory loss issues, and you just feel very demotivated, very numb, too, at times. And the thing is, neglect or such a state is not exactly advisable, because it can potentially lead to other problems. It can lead to depression, can lead to anxiety. And if these are pre existing factors in your life, then it can just intensify it, right?
Yeah.
So, now, of course, there's a lot of technicality, which, of course, we won't be going into, or we'll have to bring in like a therapist for
Yeah,
that
which we should do
reason. But
sometime.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're probably totally open to it.
Hmm.
But yeah, what we're doing essentially is we're talking about it in a broader sense, right? So we're talking about survival mode, like Brett said. We're talking about this hustle culture and just stress management in general. And at a time where it feels like stress is at an all-time high, right? There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in this world who are experiencing this on different levels, right? And one of the things that also helps you to to understand like what exactly you've been doing, and it often goes unnoticed, as Brett has said earlier, about being on social media and doom scrolling, because that is essentially a form of avoidance to kind of just immerse yourself in that virtual world where it's not everything is real, and somewhere or the other you do know it's not real, but it is an escape from your own
Yeah.
reality. And
And that society's pushing, like, and society is never gonna say, like, take those social media breaks or don't doom scroll, because like that's how they get money, that's how the system works. And it's just like, so I feel like people are getting kind of indoctrinated in that too. And it's like, if it's against society to do those things, then why would we check each other, about doing these things? But it's like, the more deep into just like, propaganda and just like just kind of like fascist rhetoric we get, it's just like so much more important that we're pulling ourselves out of that and pulling ourselves back into our self-love, pulling ourselves back into humanity, like remembering like who we actually are, remembering like, what America even was like before, things got very strange or society became very strange. If we're living in America, I know Tazine is abroad, but like, it's just like there's so many ways that we can pull ourselves out of these things. But often when you are in a, kind of survival mode loop, it's like the mind forgets the things that can help it most sometimes, to just like get off that, to get out of that cycle, to get out of that loop. And I think that, yeah, that the point was so valid of like, people need to first understand what survival mode is, because I think a lot of people don't even, yeah, they have no idea that they're even in survival mode, or they're stuck in a loop, or they're stuck in a cycle, because it's like, society and social media promote that as just normal, a like normal way of living, like that's how we should all live. But that's not a way that's going to like anymore. That's not a way that's going to like sustain art, sustain freedom, sustain like building of your dreams or anything. But yeah, Madeline, you can tap
I
in.
think it's also interesting that, like you said, pull ourselves out, because that makes it like that puts the onus on you, right? But for me, recognition of my emotional vulnerability in these times, especially lately, has come from other people and
Mhm.
like, so for survival mode, like when you're replacing your self-reflection with distraction, you are secluding yourself ultimately. You are getting yourself alone. You are locking yourself into your innermost intrusive thoughts, and
Mhm.
no one can come in. And
Mhm.
the entire bubble on social media that is created with an algorithm is especially for you to prey on these innermost intrusive thoughts. It was created for that, to keep you captivated and keep you in, because these people don't make money off of you unless it's an ad. They make money off of your attention and keeping you on there. So it's putting you even further and further into physical and psychological distress. And then you can't recognize it because you're running on the hamster wheel by yourself, and this is just normal to you. So, for me, Tazeen, I love that you like brought up all of the physical symptoms that your body can have. I have felt inflamed lately. Like my body feels puffy, and I described it to my friend the other day that like my brain literally feels like so tense that it feels like it's going to
Overstimulated.
explode. Yes, just all the time. And then I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I think it's because I'm busy at work and blah blah blah." And he was like, I think it's because you don't take any time for yourself. Like, haven't you been traveling every single weekend? And I'm like, yeah, but then I'm in a car by myself for 5.5 hours. He said, but that's not rest. Like, what's so important about all of this and getting from survival mode into your faith mode is faith requires complete surrender. And with surrender requires rest and doing nothing and being able to like recognize that that's okay. And as a boss babe, that's kind of hard to deal
It's
with.
completely hard to deal with.
That's something personally that I struggle with. And if I'm going to stand in front of a group of girls, for example, and be a role model to them, um, and I'm talking about how you need to rest and have self care and really prioritize yourself, but I'm not actually doing that because I prioritize like being a boss babe and going after everything. Like I have to practice what I preach, and not just for them, but
Yes.
for me, because I'm not
Yes.
able
And
to
that's why
function.
the girl boss like era, the book, the brand, that's why it fell off. That's
Yeah,
why it doesn't exist anymore, because
not
it was because
sustainable.
she was completely full of shit, and that's what she did. Like
Mhm.
Sophia Amarissa, she that's what she was doing. Like she was on, like it seemed like she was, and in a way she was, you know, like doing these things to like inspire other girls, and maybe it started that way, but then
Right.
it's like she couldn't get off that conveyor belt, and she kept going and she kept
And
going,
it
and
went
it wasn't.
bankrupt for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you, again, something that wasn't sustainable always crashes
Yep.
at the end of time if like love and self-care isn't put into it.
Yep.
And your body will physically do that too.
Yep. That's why it's like people are, you know, there's this like trending sound on TikTok that's like, you know, like I don't want to be a girl boss. I want to, you know, stay in nature all day and frolic with the leaves and trees, and and
But what if
I
you
just,
can't do that? You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think this is the practicality of the
yeah,
situation. Like, no matter, and this is what I come against all the time, no matter how much I want to like be out in nature, be in the
yep,
leaves, I have to make money, I have to
yep,
make a living, I have to provide for myself and for others. So, like, what are the practical
yep.
things that we can give as tips to like, what are the little things you can do even in 5 minutes? That's what I need, you know?
No, exactly. And that's why, like, for a long time, I've had like notes. I have these like notes actually right here by the desk, like on soft life versus like hustle life, right? But like, it wasn't clocking, it wasn't making sense, because like, you can't just frolic in the trees and natures in a completely capitalistic society where, you know,
Sure.
where everything that is happening, you know, in this country, but also like around the world is right now. It's just like not absolutely feasible. And so to be like, because so many spiritualists do that, like, oh, just just disconnect, engage, and frolic in the trees, and just yeah. But like eventually, like there has to be some, a way, a connection of like an immersion back of like the spiritual, into the worldly, into the earthly. It's like we still have to be like in the world even if we're not like of the world,
Right.
and that's a Bible verse, and it's just like, but so to like glamorize or to yeah, to really like to glamorize soft life, it's kind of, one girl put it to me, like when I was explaining to her, she was like, it's elitist. She was like, because she's like, some people can't afford to just do that, or can't,
It is a
like afford
privilege.
to just
That's a good way to say it. A privilege.
yeah, exactly. And then it made me think about it again. It's like, well, and that's so true. But then what I told her is like there are always ways, in tiny ways, even if you're in like a crazy like survival mode, race against like how you're going to get your next check or whatever. There's always ways to like find some place or space to slow down. And I think like, even like for me, like meditating every day or whatever it is, like it's just like there's always times and place, like the smallest things that you can like take away, like a 20-minute walk around the block, or like reading 15 minutes before you go to bed, or like pulling some like affirmation cards and like clearing your mind. um but I think the problem really is that like our minds as human beings, as Americans, as just all nations right now, because it's like a new world order that's happening. It's like all of our minds are so cluttered with everything that's going on in the world and everything that we're personally going through to survive. And in Zen, they say like the clearest space to create from is no mind. That's like this tattoo that I have. That's what the Zen circle represents, like the emptiness of mind. And it's like that's the goal of capitalism, is to fill that circle up so much that you don't have that space, that freedom, that flow to create. So when we can take those small pockets of soft life, even within our crazy like survival mode states, it's vital, because it's like if you get too deep into the matrix, too deep into like the doom scrolling, the stalking of other people, the this or that, you start to lose your own identity. You start to forget who and what you are. You forget like, why you're doing what you're doing. You forget the foundation of it. And that foundation is the important and starting place of faith, of creativity, and of everything. And like
Mhm.
foundation is not found online. It's like something that you have to do internally. So yeah, that was my
Yeah,
little
because we
rant.
are like put on this world for like a purpose, right? We're
Yeah,
we're meant to live.
yeah,
But what's happening is that we're not living our day, we're just surviving it.
yes.
Just getting through from 1 hour to the next, and from 1 week to the next, 1 day to the next, and it's just
One
a
dopamine hit to the
constant,
next.
yeah, it's just a constant cycle of pushing past the exhaustion and pushing past the triggers. And yes, it does feel very necessary to keep moving because of the way the system is constructed. There is not much that we can do in that aspect because like it was pointed out by both of you that people have to get to work, people have to make a living, people have to do all these things, and you cannot really select your hours of work when you choose to work, when you have your shifts. People work sometimes more than one job. So if they work one job, sometimes it's very demanding. So there's a lot of um, different factors that, which is also like one of the main reason that it is very much present in today's society, not just in terms of work, even if it is students that are going to like university or anything else. In every single phase of life, there are people that are struggling with all of these things, and obviously one of the reasons is because there's very less conversation about this. And people do, if you think about the conversations, does circle around, oh, I'm stressed about this, or when you're talking with your friends or your family or relatives, like this particular thing is causing me, distress, or this particular situation has happened. But that's what they're doing instead of actually taking a step back and looking at that whole picture, because when you're in the picture you don't realize what exactly is going on there, but once you step back and you look at it as a whole, you realize that these are my own patterns that I was not able to recognize up until now, because I was not stopping, I was not pausing. But these are my patterns, these are the ways that I've been like dealing with things, and not essentially very healthy, right? And it while it is not possible to be frolicking all day, because we're not like fairies in a garden, or things like
Although
that,
we'd
but
love to be.
we'd love to be. Oh my god.
That's the
But
real like job title of aspiration. Fairy.
that for sure, like if they ask you what you want to be, like, I just want to be a fairy in a
Yeah.
garden. But that while that's not possible, there are definitely a lot of things like we just discussed, to be able to kind of give our mind like a little break. And there's a lot of this, when people suppose they're going to like work, and on the way to commute they're listening to maybe a podcast, which is like a mindful podcast, and something that's not very immersive in that sense, to kind of like give your mind time to relax. And while people may be say fans of true crime and of all of those things, like in terms like of those genres, but yes, I think kind of space it out, to think of it in a way like, how would you, if it's in terms of a diet, what you say a balanced diet is for your body, right? You want to take in your carb, you want to take in your protein, and you kind of like construct your plate in a certain way. But I think that what we also need to do is construct that kind of a diet for our brain as well,
Yep.
where there is a balance of all these different elements, because our brain also needs to be fed. And with a lot of things, right, you cannot even go too long with inactivity, sitting around and, not being able to do anything.
Right.
And also at the same time, you cannot keep doing a million things at a time in one day. So there has to be a lot of different things. You need stimulus, you also need rest, you need relaxation. So I think we need
Yeah.
to really
Sunlight.
construct a diet. Yeah, sunlight. I mean, we'll be essentially like plants. I mean, how
Yeah.
wonderful is that? They just photosynthesize. But um, definitely one of the most like important factors, I think, to be able to create that kind of a diet pattern for your brain as well. And
I love that diet pattern
our
for your
team,
brain.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like our team, for example, like we're all big on like walks, and we like taking walks. Like I know Brett also goes into nature. Like I like to go take a walk. And I think even if it is like a 10-minute walk, or like Brett's like a 20-minute walk, what is important is being very mindful while you're on that walk, or being mindful when you are engaging in certain activities, like for example art, right? Any other art, any form of art, whether it's like painting, or you're like writing, you're reading, you're dancing, singing, whatever kind of art form it is. Presence is one of the most important things, and being very mindful of that moment that you are in that. And whether you're cooking or baking, anything that you like. Because for instance, I have been on walks which have been longer, right?
Yeah.
Have been in nature, beautiful environments, but
Yeah.
I've not exactly let go of the thoughts that were in my head.
Right.
I stepped out of my room, but I did not exactly step out of
Right.
my brain, right? So out of my mind. And I just needed to, no matter how much I walked, no matter what I did, I was not able to relax, or
To
essentially,
unravel.
because I was just stuck in the loop constantly. So that, versus the walks that I did take,
Yeah.
that may have been shorter, but I
Yeah.
was very present in that moment. I really did try to not engage with my phone.
Yeah, I think you should. That's why I try to leave my
Yeah,
phone when I walk.
exactly. I did not want to listen to music, or I did not want to listen to a podcast. I didn't want to listen to anything.
Yeah.
I would just walk, and I would listen to, like, there was a lot of birds where I used to live, and I would listen to the birds chirping, I would listen to the leaves rustling, and I would listen to my own footsteps, like on the
Hmm.
ground, and just feel the temperature change from my room to when I was outside. And it was just being very present in that moment. And I felt like when I did return from those kind of walks, right, that really did help me in a way. Like it kind of gave me like clarity. And
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not like, oh, you do it once, I'm good for a week. No, yeah, these things are like small things. One day, maybe you take a walk. One day, maybe you paint a picture, or one day you read, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
whatever you do in the moments that you do find time,
Right.
do it in a way that's very present
Yes.
so that you actually do catch a break.
Yes.
Sometimes we
Yes,
do
because
try to
otherwise
take
you
a
can't
nap.
catch a break. You can't.
You
There
cannot.
are no breaks outside of presence, and I think that's what we often forget. And also, there is no manifestation outside of presence. And that's another thing. Like that, the spiritual community is just like woo, just gone off the wheel of like the manifestation. Like that's why I'm changing the journal that we have from manifestation journal to self-love journal, because I can't anymore. I just
Like
can't. But yes, meditative walking is a huge thing, and that's what I call it. When you're present when walking, or you leave your phone, or you just do it very intentionally or slowly, or maybe you listen to like binaural beats or a meditation while you're walking. But meditative walking is very much of a thing. And yeah, I just don't bring my phone at all. Most of the time, unless it's like a real, specific podcast I need to listen to. But yeah, that's so true. Because I have had those days when it's like, whoa, I'm back from my walk and I was just thinking the whole time, like, and so it's important to like just make sure that you have presence in all things. Madeline was talking about surrender, and I one week was I felt like I was really caught in like survival mode, and I was listening to this reader, and she was talking about how important surrender is, especially in times of Mercury retrograde, which we are in now. But she was like, it's important to, yes, rest in surrender, and like when you let go and can just rest, then you receive more actually. And you open the doors to receive more. And she was like, the phone is really sucking energy away from you. Like all the scrolling, all that's energetic pulling. It's pulling energy out from you. And there are a lot of systems right now, because we're in a highly like deep era and age of surveillance. There are systems, one company system is called Palantir, that like basically checks people's just like the patterns of which you're on your phone, like what you're checking, what you're doing, blah blah. Like that idea that like when you think of something, right, you pull up your Instagram and then there's an ad for it. She was like, well, our bodies are now connected to our phones and through a lot of these corporate companies, and they don't have really any right to do this, but no, there's no sanction on it. So it's like through Wi-Fi, a lot of energy is being pulled from us.
And I actually just wanted to pull a little clip to, in more technical detail, explain what Palantir is to anyone who's curious. And yeah, just be aware,
What if I told you that there was a company called Palantir, and their entire existence was to hear your whispers so they could predict what you would do next? Now, what if I told you it was backed by the founder of PayPal and the CIA? What if I told you Palantir was quietly connected to your bank statements, social media, medical records, and a lot more? Then what if I told you their entire purpose was to understand and blueprint your life so they could predict exactly what you do next? If you want to know what that's called, it's called behavior surveillance. Like that grocery receipt from the time you went to the store at 11 p.m. We can't forget about that sudden change in your jogging pattern outside. They won't. Or your 3 a.m. Google search. You see, Palantir sends your personality anomalies directly to the government because you unknowingly gave them that right in the terms and agreements that you didn't read. Palantir isn't just surveillance, it's predictive governance. Control the data, control the decisions. Well, at that point, you can basically control anyone without them knowing that you're doing so. Palantir wasn't profitable for the first 17 years, and now their net worth is the same as Bank of America. And like I said, You gave them this ability when you did terms and agreements and didn't read it, gym memberships, and most of the smart devices that are in your home. Palantir is no longer a company. It is now a digital nervous system that takes care of the oh so fragile and insecure American people. The next time your thoughts shift or a news cycle tells you what to believe, ask yourself, is this really my decision?
I really also recommend like getting Faraday bags, which are the bags that, block Wi-Fi waves for your phone, for your computer, for your iPad. And then
Whatever.
yeah, and then also turning off the Wi-Fi when you sleep and when you're in deep focus modes, because you think that the Wi-Fi is not like interfering, whatever, but our phones, they're always monitoring and reading us and trying to like, see what we're going to think next, do next, just because they want to know what we're going to buy next, shop next, be next. And I think that like when you can unplug and stop the energetic pull of that, it pulls you back into presence, pulls you back into flow and creation mode. And when I started stop doing that and like taking actual, not only just social media breaks but actually Wi-Fi breaks, I was getting headaches a lot and my headaches started stopping. So just be conscious of that too, because it's like literally, it's not just like a metaphorical way of saying like social media is draining. No, it's actually sucking out of our energy. And like to rewire and to totally reboot, you got to for real unplug, not just even like putting your phone down or wait, just like off. Everything's got to be just like off. And Madeline has said before that like, in states of high anxiety, sometimes you just like can sit in silence, sit in like complete just silence without anything, without music, without anything. And when you can also get in those meditative states, things become very clear too about like where energy is pulling from. Maybe if you have been spending too much time online, maybe if it's been coming from a specific person or whatever. But I recommend doing that too, like hardcore, just like meditation with no, Wi-Fi or anything. And I think that like Islam is also very powerful when it comes to like prayer and meditation, because like Tazeen, you have to like pray 5 times a day, and there's also space and presence in that.
One of the other um, things that we probably need to think of is for a lot of people when you're um, in this kind of a state, like highly stressed or like we said,
Yeah,
survival mode, what this episode is about, there can be a lot of confusion in a sense. You call it brain fog or like
an
confusion and all
illusion.
these different things, right? Yeah. And you do lose track of a lot of things and you lose track kind of like you go off your schedule and all these things. Obviously, for a lot of people who are not exactly that bound by, the work environments and things like that. But even then, even in those cases, it does happen. So I think what is essential is kind of building a structure
Yeah,
and
yeah,
which is
routine.
obviously, yeah, which is very hard, right? Obviously, it's very easy to talk about it and describe all these things, but obviously, when you are like in the midst of it, it's very difficult to apply it so that we do understand that. But as hard as this is, it is also equally that important. Building a routine
Yes.
that's very like difficult, but at the same time, it is equally important because that is one thing that kind of goes out the window when
Yeah.
you are in these states of high
Panic.
stress and panic and chaos and all of these things. And I think in that moment, creating a structure that works for you based on your current needs and based on your current abilities, that is very important because it's essentially, if you want to visualize it, it's kind of like how you're following like a map when you turn on Google Maps or any sort of map, and you know exactly where you're going and you just have to like follow the path and just take turns after turns. Everything is already drawn out for you. I think that is kind of what creating this sort of a structure or sort of schedule will do for you. It will help guide you and navigate your day and your week, because that is often very difficult because your mind gets really cluttered and you're just overstimulated. You want to fit in a million different things. You cannot really do that. And then you just obviously do not completely neglect yourself. So I think when you have everything already pinned down for these moments, obviously being spontaneous is very important, but depending for these minutes, the moments where you actually cannot fathom all of those things. I think
Yeah.
that's when it really helps to guide you. And then it really gives you that structure and kind of keeps you grounded because a set routine does keep you grounded, especially in times of chaos. So that is one thing that's very important that we do recommend you create your daily routine or weekly routine, whatever,
Or
feels
morning
best, feels more
routine.
natural to you. Exactly. Whatever feels natural to you. I think these are little things, yes, but they do make a very big difference in
Yeah.
these times.
Yeah, and I think Madeline, you were talking about your like getting your evening routine back on track, like just last night. So do you want to talk about
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Tazine, everything that you said is exactly what I'm going through right now and like how I'm trying to shift my days. Because for me, like, and we're all such busy people, I have learned this year to literally schedule my rest time. Like I follow a little planner to the T. Most days,
that?
there's flexibility there, but like I will write in like shut everything off and journal at
Yeah.
this time. And it is a non negotiable for me. And you have to respect yourself and honor yourself enough to put that boundary up with other priorities in your life and take that time for yourself. Because that's something that I've personally struggled with is like, I will continue to push through something, but I have to remind myself that like that's actually showing myself disrespect. Like it's not respectful for my body or for my mind to say, actually, I'm going to continue working on this task for work instead of journaling and like thinking about my day and literally processing everything that I've gone through. Because if I don't process that, I'm going to go to bed with all of those things on my mind. And then it's, subconscious thoughts in your sleep. And that's what you wake up. Like I would literally wake up the next day and be so high strung and
Yep.
feel out of control. And it's a cycle that will just continue. So, actually scheduling those things, no matter how counterintuitive that sounds, has been a really big help for me personally.
Yeah. And then I think like also with your evening routine and just also making sure that the Wi-Fi is off when you sleep because otherwise
Yeah.
that still continues because it's like still even subconsciously just like that pulling from you. But yeah, when you can really like hone into just the unplugged presence of life as we should be able to do, like it brings so much clarity for things. But yeah, I think like just in closing out, I think that we touched on some very vital points. And I think that doing all of these things, any of these things, with some kind of consistency, really helps like you be able to start creating again because I think a lot of people are creatively blocked because they're not understanding that like that they're even on this kind of like conveyor belt or rat race or survival mode in the first place. I was also going to say that I'm going to soon relaunch our self-love journal, which is self-love journal, not a manifestation journal anymore. But I was thinking about that journal because in the journal specifically, I put like things like a checklist before you start writing, and it's basically like to check that you started journaling before you got online and started scrolling, to check like how you're internally feeling, each day, to make a list of 5 simple things or simple words that you're grateful for. And so in that journal, it's like while everybody can like add completely different things to their morning routines, it's like I put it in there like again and again and again so that like when people are in survival mode and they have that journal, it's like you can always go back to it and you can get pulled back into the like a routine of alignment. So that's why I think it's a powerful journal and I'm excited for us to relaunch it. But I think just journaling in general, just creative practice. Me and Tazine had this conversation like yesterday, but like creative practice is just like so key right now, and it is such an outlet. Like on the podcast Instagram, I posted this woman talking about how doing art at least like twice a month, or even like once, even if you do it once a month, you have a 14% less chance of like dying.
People who indulge in the arts every 2 months have a 31% lower chance of dying. And people who indulge only twice a year have a 14% lower chance of dying.
Really?
I actually, in my research, looked at, is art what makes us human? And there's quite a strong argument from archaeologists and anthropologists and stuff that it is. And so we know about cave paintings from 40,000 years ago, but 10 and 20,000 years before that, in southern Africa, people were making carvings into ostrich eggshells. But 500,000 years ago, we were making tools that were more beautiful and symmetrical than they had to be to do the job that was required.
Yes.
Art is very integral to the human experience.
Like it really prolongs life. Like, and I think that that's why systemically that they don't want us to have this space, this clarity, this freedom of mind to keep like creating, because it's just such an outlet, and it really brings you peace, and it brings you like out of just like toxic loops of the mind. I think that just like creation is a blessing. Like Madeline sings and Tazine writes, and I'm a visual artist, but whatever your like method or media of artistry is, tapping into it during this time will definitely save you. Like, and I think only you can save you, but your art is also a part of you. So that's why it's so powerful with self-love. Art saves lives, self-love heals. And I think that's it, guys. I think it was a great episode. Until next time, I hope you guys all remember to love yourself. I hope you remember to unplug and let the creative juices flow, and to put faith first, and to lead with love. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, let me stop this.
Hi everyone, hope you liked that episode. We are all about preaching self-love and empowering women and girls around the world. Support us in our journey as we provide art supplies and many more resources to girls in Ghana through our 2 programs, the Fly Girl Initiative and Little Heartists. We are also working on hosting more Color for a Cause events, as well as our No Filter school tours. Your help will enable this organization to work on bettering the lives of people around the world.